Chorus, are we ready? So that you I have kattas in the corner. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare Hare Srila Prabhupada ki. So thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. And it was somewhat appropriate, though it was not an intention, that there was a Japathon in the morning and you were absorbed in chanting the holy names with a certain objective. And what did that do to you? It opened up the possibility that you could chant 32 rounds. You were constrained in your mind that you could even manage 16 in a day. But then it opened up the possibility that you could rearrange your day, you could chant 32 rounds, you could again attend the program in the evening, and then you could go home. Right? So these are experiences that set thresholds. We do not operate on proper thresholds. Most of the time, we are operating on thresholds that are set by us, the constraints that we have. And this is true in any environment. we are very self-limiting in our approach to life. And that goes with spiritual life as well. We're very self-limiting. What we can do is far beyond what we think we can do. And that goes for every aspect of our existence. So we limit ourselves when we start thinking that this is our goal of life, or we limit ourselves thinking that this is what is possible, or we limit ourselves by thinking that somehow or the other the material energy is more powerful than Krishna's arrangement. Material energy can never be more powerful than what Krishna has arranged or the acharyas have provided us. So we have a lot of self-limiting aspects of our existence. So there are many books that have been written on the glorification of the holy names, many. And they've all been derived from the Harinam Cintamani. Harinam Cintamani essentially is the touchstone of the holy names. Cintamani is the touchstone, the grantor of all desires. Essentially, be it material, be it spiritual, all desires, touchstone. Cintamani, Harinam Cintamani. Harinam is Cintamani, it's a gem, it's a touchstone. It's the spiritual world itself. Now, there have been many books that have been authored, predicated on the Harinam Cintamani. And there have been many approaches to glorification of the holy name, and many approaches to be able to elaborate on what was explained in the Harinam Cintamani. Right. So we are going to focus on a certain approach. The approach we want to focus on is how can we get rid of self-limiting behavior? How can we get rid of self-limiting thought patterns? And when we get rid of self-limiting thought patterns and self-limiting behavior, it allows us to expand far beyond what we think is possible. And that goes for every realm of our existence. It also allows us to reach for the highest level at every instance. Right. So let's look at this whole strategy that's been provided in the Harinam Cintamani. It's a completely different approach which Lord Chaitanya has taken. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So Lord Chaitanya, when he appears and when he starts speaking, and he is speaking to a Nitya Siddha who is an eternally liberated soul, Haridas Thakur, that conversation is being recorded as Harinam Cintamani. We should really pay a lot of attention because it's very rare that you can ever delve into a conversation between God and his most intimate servant and not come out after hearing that conversation with some nuggets. You cannot but be impacted by such conversations. That is the truth. Now, Lord Chaitanya followed an exemplary leadership strategy. He was an exemplary leader. He's Krishna himself. Right? We hear about leadership and management, but then his leadership strategy was extraordinary. How did he empower? He empowered at the highest level. He made Sri Ramananda Raya, one of his closest associates, to speak on the most confidential topics of bhakti and rasa. He empowered. It is not that Lord Chaitanya did not know. He asked Ramananda Raya saying, talk about this. And Sri Ramananda Raya was sitting at his lotus feet, looking at Lord Chaitanya saying, oh, you are ordering me, which means that if I follow your order, I would be able to speak. And then the glorification of that conversation goes to whom? Sri Ramananda Raya. So this is empowerment at the highest level because he's a spiritual leader. He not only is giving the power, he is also giving the credit to whoever is taking part. So Ramananda Raya takes the complete credit of speaking the most confidential aspects. Now you have Lord Chaitanya talking to Srila Rupa Goswami. The conversation between Srila Rupa Goswami and Lord Chaitanya is captured in the form of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and several other topics. Now when he is talking to Srila Rupa Goswami, he is discussing Rasa Tattva. He is discussing different aspects of rasa, right? The relationships and the categorical aspects of different relationships one can have with God. So he is going very deeper into those aspects. And then he is talking to Srila Sanatan Goswami with a conversation, and then that results in the Hari Bhakti Vilasa and other literature, which is basically focused on the Abhideya or the activity that is performed in devotional service. And then he is talking to Srila Haridas Thakur. He is choosing a specific personality. He is nominating this personality with a great strategy. Haridas Thakur is born a Muslim. which is a self-limiting concept. Because now you're talking about varna, you're talking about ashram. You're talking about birth, you're talking about karma. But can devotional service be limited by birth? Can it be limited by your ashram? Can it be limited by other aspects of your existence? The fact is, no. Devotional service is transcendental. It's above material designations. Now look at the strategy. He is coming here to give us the Yuga Dharma, and he is choosing a Muslim to be the Namacharya. How amazing is that? And this is 15th century. Can you really understand the subtlety of strategy which is being used by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by Krishna? He is picking up someone and is empowering him, and then he becomes the Namacharya, the upholder of the holy names, despite the fact that he has all odds against him for him to be able to take up the holy names. He comes from a karmic background which is not conducive. He comes from a background where he is going to be put into the corner and he is going to be rejected by the mainstream Hindu, so-called Hindu society. He's a Muslim, he's a Mlecha. He would not be allowed to come into certain aspects of Hindu society back in 15th century. People used to jump into the Ganges if they even see such a person. Do you know that they were not allowed to walk? Depending on which category, they were not allowed to walk in certain roads, especially leading to the sanctum. They could never engage in any aspect of bhakti. So Lord Chaitanya chose Sri Haridas Thakur to be the upholder and the Namacharya, and if the Yuga Dharma is chanting the holy names, you can imagine the prominent position of Srila Haridas Thakur. Now Lord Chaitanya is sitting before him, and Haridas Thakur at his lotus feet, and is empowering Haridas Thakur. And then what do we remember this conversation as? We remember this conversation as Haridas Thakur's conversation. It is the teaching of Haridas Thakur. It is the teaching of Haridas Thakur. This is leadership, spiritual leadership, where empowerment is given, and then the credit is given fully, and the glorification is given fully to whoever is empowered. This is how a spiritual leader operates. They hold back nothing, which is amazing. You empower and you also give credit, and then let them take full credit. You step away. So Lord Chaitanya, being God, he was exemplary in every aspect. He was teaching management in 15th century, wasn't he? Right? He was really teaching management with his actions. He was teaching strategy, where he was choosing the lowest common denominator, which was Haridas Thakur, in terms of his birth. He was a Muslim. He came from a diverse background. He came from a very complicated situation. And then he empowered him to become the Namacharya, where he wanted to give us a message saying, nobody can complain that my birth is going to prevent me from chanting. Nobody is going to complain that my situation, social situation, or discrimination is going to allow me and prevent me from taking up the holy names. See, this is the beauty of strategy when it comes from the highest level. It cannot fail. And they account for not just the present. Real leaders are philosophers. They have to go 500 years, 600 years, 10,000 years down the line to see that if I perform a certain action today, and this conversation took place under a tree in Jagannath Puri. It was not even a situation where Lord Chaitanya was traveling around and he was taking Haridas Thakur to New York, and he was taking him to Europe, and he was taking him to different places, and there were television cameras focused on them. This was a tree in Jagannath Puri in India. They were sitting down with a group of devotees. This conversation was happening. That conversation, because of its purity and the intent, because Krishna was involved, is spreading all over the world. Because purity cannot be stopped. Material nature will be decimated. It will be destroyed when it comes in touch with spirituality. That is the reason why when we come in touch with some spiritual object, we experience change. Right? It's very transformative. So now they spoke 5 centuries back, and it is transmitted today, and we are discussing it here in Edison in New Jersey. There was no barrier in terms of time. There was no barrier in terms of any material location. So this is the power of a higher principle in operation. When we constantly seek to focus on the higher principle, the activity that is being performed will not meet with any obstacle. Right? But we have problems. We have heard about this several times. We have heard about this conversation. We have heard about the book. And we have also heard that the holy name is the Yuga Dharma. But we have problems. Right? We have problems because we think it's a problem to be chanting. We don't. It's not fun. Right? We want to get it done as a chore. We want to complete it. How long does it take for me? It actually, we are looking at it saying it is interfering with my life. Krishna is interfering with my life, and that's the Yuga Dharma. We want to complete it. But in reality, our existence is for the holy names. We have nothing else, but we exist for the holy names. Now go back 5,000 years to the Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Sarva Dharman Parityajya, Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja, Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshayasmi Masuchaha. He is saying, Sarva Dharman Parityajya, Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. That Krishna who is telling Arjun that you are involved in secondary dharma, you are involved in distractions, you do not know how to prioritize, you do not know how to keep me in the center. That is your problem. Keep me in the center. That Krishna and his holy names as the Mahamantra are non-different. So the strategy was given then, 5,000 years back. What should Arjun do? Sarva Dharman Parityajya, Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. And the same strategy was repeated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But the second time over, 500 years back, it was not the physical form of the Lord, it was more the holy names, because they are non-different. They're completely non-different. Now look at where we are from the Bhagavad Gita's point of view. Are we doing the right thing? Our objective, according to the Bhagavad Gita, is, Krishna is saying, keep me in the center. You become my servant. Prioritize and strategize life according to keeping me in the center. Every decision of yours would be taken based on whether it is conducive for keeping me in the center. This is the message which is given by Krishna. This is not about fame. This is not about you being recognized. This is not about people saying you're doing things which are right. Because Arjun was giving all those arguments. He was saying that people will, this would cause infamy to me. If I were to kill all these people, it would cause infamy. This is not about whether you're going to become famous, whether you're going to be getting recognized. This is not about, you being a warrior. It is not about you being a nephew. It is not about you being a disciple. It is not about you being a man or a woman. It is about me. This is the message of the Bhagavad Gita. So in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, we have this responsibility that if we are going to be eating and sleeping, mating and defending because we are in the material body, we have to learn to keep Krishna right in the center while we engage in these activities. Otherwise, the eating, sleeping, mating, defending will have an effect on us where we would be distracted, where Krishna might constantly be competing with our job, he would be competing with our spouse, our children, or other aspects of our existence. We don't want him to be competing. We want him to be in the center, where we go to the periphery and take decisions on every other aspect of life based on keeping him in the center. This is the principle that was enunciated in the 3rd chapter, Karma Yoga. How do you operate? By keeping Krishna in the center, which would result in transcendental knowledge, which would result in transcendental experiences, which is the 5th chapter. Right? Acting in devotional service, acting in Krishna consciousness requires us to be Krishna conscious first. You cannot be acting in Krishna consciousness without being Krishna conscious. And what is being Krishna conscious? Being Krishna conscious is knowing who we are, knowing who is Krishna, knowing the relationship, knowing the activities in the relationship, and then acting upon it. So how do you do all of that? Right? That is the goal set by the Bhagavad Gita. And the same goal operates 500 years back when Lord Chaitanya appeared. Only this time, the focus is, it is the holy names. Krishna said, keep me in the center on the battlefield. Keep my priorities in the center. Now Lord Chaitanya is saying, keep the holy names in the center. There's no difference. Because namanaminoho abhinnatvam. There is no difference between the name and the named. Right? There's no difference. This is Padma Purana where it says there's no difference between the name and the named. That is the reason why it is spreading. You realize the transcendental nature is such that 500 years back, if something is spoken, it's moving forward. It's transcendental. Now, let's look at the specific challenge. Let's look at who we are first. I know some of you are saying that you chanted 32 rounds. It was a little overwhelming. You don't want to chant the next 16 rounds. When we asked to chant the 4 rounds, we were running at full speed. We wanted to get it done. Okay. This is an experience. It's a realization. Every one of us is coming from reflections in the morning. We want to see how we felt because of this exercise of chanting 32 rounds. Now, during Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time, 64 rounds was the norm. It is norm, okay? That was the norm. 64 rounds. And people were considered fallen if they were not chanting 64 rounds. This was, huh? They used to manage. They used to manage. They could prioritize, they could manage, they could do that, they could, the spiritual life is such that the holy names, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that in Sikshashtakam, Nija Sarva Shaktihi. All the powers are vested into the holy names. So, the eating, sleeping part, if you really want to serve Krishna, it gets adjusted. The power comes. There's the practical side to it as to how much you want to do, but you also want to take into account that it is not self-limiting. You should not start thinking that it's a problem. If you start thinking it's a problem, it would become a problem. If you start thinking it's possible, it becomes possible. So just 100 years back, the norm was 64 rounds. Anything less than 64 rounds was considered fallen. And how long does 64 rounds take in a day? 8 hours? I would say that if you say around 5, see normally if you chant with concentration, right? And if you've been chanting for some time and then your mind has settled down and you've reached a point where you're able to chant, it takes you 5 minutes for one mala, right? Typically. So an hour and 20 minutes is your 16 rounds for most, if you've been chanting for a while, because you're able to concentrate, your mind doesn't drift, the karmic reactions that we carry, which are a huge problem, have been dissolved. It's an hour and 20 minutes. That's normal. If you take that into account, right? How long does it take? It takes approximately around, if you say around 6 hours. Approximately around 6 hours a day. Now the question is, can I chant for 6 hours a day? When do I wake up and so on? There are many, many devotees who do that, even today. They wake up at 2, they wake up at 2:30, and then they go on till 7 o'clock in the morning. All they do is just chant. Everything else starts after that. You got to realize that we worship the deities, we engage in service, we associate with devotees, we read books, all to be able to chant. If your deity worship is not allowing you to chant, you're better off not worshipping the deities because you will end up committing offenses. Please understand that. We are not here to adopt the Brahmanical standard. We are not here for Varnashrama. We are here to follow the Yuga Dharma, which is to chant the holy names. You will have to constantly reaccount and understand your priorities. We'll have to constantly do that. And this is the reason why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, what is he saying? He says, Ma Suchaha. He says, do not fear, follow the directions of the Acharyas. The devotees who are fixed, they are completely understanding of this. They wake up, they focus on chanting of the holy names, and then everything else gets prioritized after the fact. If that cannot be done properly, they start taking inventory. Okay, what do I do with my life? How can I sleep earlier? How can I wake up earlier? This was 64 rounds. That was a standard. And then Srila Prabhupada came and he introduced 64 rounds. That was 1966. His servants who first met him, they were completely amazed, saying 6 hours, 8 hours of chanting, impossible. Not with the bodies that we have. The bodies and the subtle bodies that we have, which are filled with passion, which are filled with ignorance, they would not allow my mind to focus for 8 hours. It would be torture. We cannot do that. Prabhupada reflected, he said, okay, 32 rounds. They said, no, we can't do that. They just said that. And then finally he said, okay, 16 rounds. He said, no less. Make sure that you chant your 16 rounds, you follow your 4 regulative principles. Now let's understand the regulative principles. The regulative principles are regulative principles of freedom. The regulative principles are not a goal. We constantly think that the regulative principles are a goal. It is not the goal of life to be a vegetarian. It is not the goal of life to abstain from one activity or the other. No. If the Shastra, Guru and Sadhu had consistently said that some activity was okay, that would not have been a regulative principle for us. They said that because they understood that this is required. This is a regulative principle of freedom. And freedom from what? Bondage. Okay, expand on bondage. What is bondage? Bondage with what? Okay, those are the transformations of the body. But then what is bondage? Does, okay, now I'm hearing a lot of things, but then the point is that what is it which inhibits us? Senses, yes. Our past habits, yes. But then what is it which we're talking about? I'm looking for the right answers because there's a certain methodological way of thinking about this. You should not. Huh? Okay. The question, see, this is what happens. You've been having answers for 5 minutes. We don't know what the question is, right? No, fine enough, good enough. So the question was, what is preventing us? What is it which is preventing us? How are we self-limiting? What is it which is preventing us? Material nature. What is preventing us is the modes of nature. If we are in passion, we are in ignorance, we do not have the free will that is required for us to be able to focus. We are caught up by the modes. Someone who is extraordinarily rajasic, right? They will not be able to focus. They will not be able to act upon. Someone who is deeply in the mode of ignorance, they sleep for 15 hours, 14 hours, then you have a problem. So what is actually problematic, what is holding us back is that we are constantly in touch with the lower modes and we are being liberated from the lower modes by following certain regulative principles. That liberation from the lower modes is liberation from passion, liberation from ignorance. It puts us on the platform of goodness. The platform of goodness is a platform. It is not the goal of life. Srila Prabhupada said the platform of goodness makes you a human being. So you can imagine what we are not if you don't follow the regulative principles. This is the human platform which allows us the opportunity to act with discrimination, being able to look at things and say that I would like to spend my time this way now. This is the human platform, and that's all the 4 regulative principles of no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, and no illicit sex. This just brings us to the platform of goodness. So we use the goodness platform so that we can chant better, so that our mind does not interfere as much as it is with other modes, right? Some of us constantly like to walk while we chant, right? What is that due to? Have you noticed that? I don't want to show of hands. It's sleep, yes, but then you keep walking back and forth. They like to walk and chant early in the morning. That's a lot of passion in the body. That passion has to get wired down. So there needs to be activity, and they need to kind of walk so that the body is engaged and the senses are engaged, and then they're able to chant. Right. So there are certain ways in which we could maximize this. We'll get into it later in terms of better habits. Right. I'm not going to be doing this in one session. There is going to be a subsequent session, maybe 3 sessions. I'm going to go a little slow because if this is the most important activity that we have to do for the rest of our lives, and this is the Yuga Dharma, then let us sit and let us talk, let us understand, and let us connect with each other to see how we can remove the obstacles that stand in the way. There are certain obstacles. Let's identify the obstacles, set those goals, saying I'm going to work on it, let's eliminate them. You identify an obstacle, you start thinking of how to remove it, and then you start moving ahead. Let's start doing that one step at a time. So what are we? Prabhupada gave us 16 rounds and 4 regulative principles, while the real standard was 64 rounds. But even 64 rounds is not going to get you anywhere. What are we? Kalo Shudra Sambhavaha. We are Shudras. Kalo. In Kali Yuga, everybody is a Shudra. As a result of which we have Shudra tendencies. We have a Shudra nature of not being able to focus, not being able to concentrate, not being able to pick up the scriptures, not being able to associate and engage in higher activity for a long time. It gets to us. Kalo Shudra Sambhava. We are Shudras. That's a fact. Being Shudras, do we have the capacity for higher experiences and higher Brahmanical thoughts meditation, so on and so forth? The fact is no. Can we worship the deity with the finesse that is required so that the deity worship can liberate us? A Shudra cannot do that. Remember that. Now, this does not mean that there are not people who are Brahminical in our movement today. There are Brahminical people. We are not trying to put down those attitudes. All I'm trying to say is do not set goals which are not supported by the Yuga Dharma. Do not set goals for yourself where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not supporting you. You are alone. If the acharyas are not behind you, do not set goals. You are going to be alone. And being alone is not such a good thing, even in the material world. Imagine being alone trying to surpass the material world and all the layers of the covering. You'll be very alone. Any strategy that we have should align itself with our parampara. If the parampara is saying chant the holy names, that is the priority. We start looking at where we are. So you should be very careful in choosing activity in terms of Krishna consciousness. Time, because time is limited. So now, 16 rounds, Kalo Shudra Sambhavaha, we are not sadhana siddhas. What is a sadhana siddha? A sadhana siddha used to exist in the Satya Yuga where he could sit in meditation for thousands of years and he had the capacity to concentrate and he had the capacity to go deeper, get rid of all the karmic reactions and then move forward. We are not sadhana siddhas. Our perfection, which is Krishna Prema, is not going to come because of our sadhana, because we are doing our 16 rounds and 4 regulative principles, because it is not enough. Remember that. We should never ever get arrogant with the spiritual practices. Understand, it is not enough. We cannot move forward. It is not enough based on that. No, this is not to discourage. But we have to understand where we belong. We have to understand how to position ourselves so that we can strategize and receive what we need to receive. Right? Even a beggar has to know his place. Do you all agree? A beggar has to know his place. He cannot go around demanding because he will have a problem. A beggar has to know his place so that he knows how to beg and then he is given the alms which is required from the king. That's who we are. Right? Are we Nitya Siddhas? We don't know. Okay, we are Nitya Baddhas, Nitya Siddhas, we don't know. But if you know that you are a Nitya Siddha, my request to you is to please help us. We are in deep trouble. Any help that you give would be deeply appreciated. Now, who are we? We are Kripa Siddhas. We are completely dependent on the mercy of the Acharyas for us to even be able to take one step forward because we don't have the capacity on our own and our self-limiting and self-defeating concepts of life prevent us from moving forward. We are Kripa Siddhas. Now we want to pay attention to the word Kripa Siddha. What is Kripa Siddha? How can I be a proper Kripa Siddha? Because all I can do is chant 16 rounds and follow regulative principles. That's minimum. We should not expect that we can even break those and then expect something. There would surely be benefits. You're going to see that. But we have to understand that Prabhupada ji has told us, Srila Prabhupada has told us. He has said chant 16 rounds, follow regulative principles. That's a minimum. We are Kripa Siddhas. But what is the position of a Kripa Siddha? That's one. We won't understand it. We will be going through it in the subsequent session as to what is it which is a Kripa Siddha and how we are limiting ourselves while not understanding the position. How do you position yourself for mercy? Right? How do you stand in the line? You know, like those days when we were very young, we used to go to the cinema talkies. Some of us used to know exactly how to surpass, cut the line and get to the front and then buy the tickets in a houseful show, know who can sell tickets and so on. How do we stand in the line so that we can receive what we are supposed to receive? Absolutely. Because a Kripa Siddha needs to understand that Prabhupada is not expecting him to build a big temple. Prabhupada is not expecting him to be a great distributor of books. Prabhupada is not expecting him to be a great speaker. Prabhupada is not expecting him to be anything. He is saying all of that is fine. It's acceptable. It's wonderful. But that's not going to get you anywhere. Okay? A Kripa Siddha's position has to be understood very carefully. There are many, many devotees. And since this is like the choir, which is the inner circle, most of us are closely attached to the holy names, have been chanting. I can speak out a little more. And that's the reason why I kind of say that, if you're brand new, this may not help because I kind of delve into areas which we should not. in brand new circles. The fact is, going back in our own movement, Prabhupada's movement, you will notice that a lot of big leaders had big problems. There were many, many devotees who were the humble devotees who did not even know Prabhupada, did not meet him. Prabhupada used to initiate by letter because it was a worldwide movement which was expanding, and Prabhupada used to constantly travel. He used to write letters, he used to send the beads by mail. Sometimes he used to tell the local authority, chant on my behalf, this is the name I'm giving. Right? In the case of my spiritual master, Satswarup Das Maharaj chanted on the beads because he was serving as a servant of Satswarup Maharaj. So Prabhupada wrote to him saying, this boy, he is a very nice boy, I'm naming him Ganashyam. Give him the beads and let him become initiated. So this was how Prabhupada used to operate. So there were many devotees who simply hadn't even met Prabhupada. They were initiated by him, and they were like for almost 10 years around the world, they had not even met him. But those devotees did extraordinarily well. They did extraordinarily well. They never held any serious, good, high position when Prabhupada was on the planet. They were doing some very simple deity worship. They were a pujari in some temple. Radhanath Swami Maharaj was pujari in New Vrindavan. Right, my Guru Maharaj, he was distributing books under other senior devotees in Europe and all those. And Chandramouli Maharaj, for instance, I don't think he even met Prabhupada. Of course, Bhakti Charu Maharaj, he was with Prabhupada, he was initiated, all three initiations from with Prabhupada, that's a different story. So, there were many devotees who had not even met Prabhupada, they were very simple, and they were able to continue day after day, because they knew how to position themselves for mercy. They knew exactly how to position themselves for mercy because they knew how to stand in line, how to receive mercy. So what we are going to be doing is we are going to be looking in the next two sessions, not this session. This session we're going to set the stage. Next two sessions we'll be looking at how to position ourselves for mercy. We will also be looking at our self-limiting habits which are preventing us from moving forward or which are blocking Krishna from giving us the help that we need. How do we get rid of those self-limiting, self-defeating patterns? Remember, the reason why this becomes extraordinarily important is because an entire lifetime can go in just taking care of those self-limiting problems. People can just be stuck in some kind of a spiral because they have a mental block, and it can go for an entire lifetime. So we would be doing that. We would be focusing on the concept of anarthas, right? Once we understand how Srila Haridas Thakur is explaining the potency of the holy name, we will also be kind of following that, and we'll be kind of getting into a situation where we'll be looking at self-limiting habits which we can get rid of. Okay? So, today it's 4:30 or 5:30? It's 4:30. Okay. So, the first thing that we would do is we'll just get into the Harinam Cintamani itself. This was translated by many devotees, but it was written by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It's one of his books. Harinam Cintamani, he derived the original text and he authored it, and he wrote down and he translated it, he gave some purports, and then it was translated by our devotees into English, right? So, the first thing that we would want to understand is we want to understand Krishna. Before we get into Harinam Cintamani, the first thing that Sri Chaitanya is asking, and Sri Haridas Thakur, I'm just going to read that. Okay? And this language which is used here, it may seem unreal, but this is the mood of a pure devotee. This was his mood. This was Haridas Thakur's mood. One day, having returned from his bath in the ocean, Lord Chaitanya came to see Sri Haridas Thakur. We want to see Krishna. How many times would Krishna want to come and see us? Haridas Thakur was so beautiful internally that Krishna wanted to see him. He used to visit him, right? Which is fascinating. He found Haridas sitting under the Siddha Bakula tree. How many of you have been to Jagannath Puri, to this place? Right? There's a Siddha Bakula tree And you can go there and you can chant a few rounds where I think it's still there, but it's the internal part of the tree has completely rotted, but it is amazing that it is still there. Because the potency of Haridas Thakur and the chanting that he did there was so potent that it is still there, the tree is very much there. So you should go and visit there. He found Haridas sitting under the Siddha Bakula tree. Greatly pleased at meeting Srila Haridas, the Lord then inquired from him the means by which the conditioned soul can easily attain liberation. Means by which the conditioned soul can attain liberation. Krishna is asking it. Srila Haridas fell at the Lord's lotus feet and clasped them tightly. His entire body went into rapture, and he offered humble prayers punctuated by shivering and tears. Lord Chaitanya was an extraordinarily powerfully built personality. He was powerfully built. He was not a small person. He was very powerfully built. He was extraordinarily good looking. Haridas Thakur was very old at that time. In terms of bodily personality, you have a person who is somewhat extraordinarily young and good looking, and then you have Haridas Thakur who is very old, but good looking in his own ways because he was chanting the holy names. Now he falls on Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet, clasps them, and he is washing them with his tears, and he is begging him because he cannot conceive that this is the holy name, and he is asking me to explain how the holy name is going to result in liberation. He cannot even conceive. Why is Lord Chaitanya asking me? Who am I? Because a humble devotee is constantly asking, who am I? Who am I? Who am I to do this? But then while they are asking that question, they accomplish a lot. By the mercy of Krishna, they get to accomplish a lot. In a choked voice, Srila Haridas Thakur said, "My Lord, your wonderful pastimes are unfathomable. I am unfortunate and illiterate. My only anchor is your lotus feet. What is the use of asking questions of a worthless person like me?" And Krishna comes, and so Prabhupada comes, or someone, Guru Maharaj comes and says, explain to me the holy name. I would like to hear from you. And then we would say, at least if you're normal, you would start thinking, who am I? Who am I to even talk? Who am I to even share? What's my qualification? And so on and so forth. But this is Haridas Thakur. He was the epitome of humility. He clasped Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet and he started crying. Srila Haridas continued, "You are Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has appeared in Navadvipa to serve the living entities, to save the living entities. O my Lord Gauranga, kindly shelter me in the shade of your lotus feet. Only this can engladden my heart. Your pastimes are ever expanding. You have manifested your name, form, qualities, and pastimes in this material world so that even a fallen wretch like myself can relish them. It is impossible for the jiva to perceive your transcendental features with mundane senses." Impossible to perceive your transcendental features with mundane senses. When Krishna was on the planet 5,000 years ago, Duryodhana could not perceive, Shakuni could not perceive that Krishna was the Supreme Person. They could not perceive him. They thought he was mundane with extraordinary powers. He had all kinds of mystic powers. He was a magician. He could do anything. They could not perceive it because the senses were not in touch with reality. They are in touch with the body. Okay? These direct manifestations, Lord Krishna has mercifully manifested his transcendental feature of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Panchatattva for the highest benefit of humanity. These direct manifestations of transcendence are immediate expansions of the internal spiritual potency of the Lord. So, the first thing that we want to do is understand Krishna. So this is the first question. Explain to me about the glories of the holy name. And we have to understand who is Krishna before we can even go forward. Right? Because we come from a background where we have been exposed to Godhead since childhood in different ways. So we have a huge anartha in being able to accept Krishna as a supreme person. It's a block. Deep down, there is a subtle block which is not allowing us to accept Krishna as a supreme person, while this is the fundamental truth. So the first thing that has to be established that yes, there is Krishna, and there is Lord Nrsingadev, there is Lord Vamana, there is Varaha, then you have expansions, then you have Aveshas, you have empowered entities, you have Lord Shiva, who is a specific category. How do we understand that Krishna is supreme? So the Shastras, we have to depend on the Shastras. The first aspect of it, before we go into Harinam Cintamani, is to understand that Krishna has 64 qualities. Right. Anybody has the Srimad Bhagavatam handy, the first canto? I'm sorry? Yeah, please, Mataji, if you can. Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto. So while we still wait for the Srimad Bhagavatam, we just want to kind of take some examples of our situation. Our situation is like a child. A child sometimes is being told by the parent, I will gift you, let's say, a bicycle. I will gift you, a wonderful toy if you wash dishes consistently for 4 weeks. Some task. Now, washing dishes at home for 4 weeks, right? The payment that is going to be made by the parents to the child, it may not cover the cost of the bicycle. But the child is being told, 4 weeks later, you will be given this. You will be given a certain result, which is you will be giving a gift, right? So there are two kinds of children. There are children who take up the challenge. They say that I will wash the dishes, I will do what I need to do, and I will get the gift. There are other children who start thinking, maybe I can take those dishes, hide it under the bed. Maybe I can, nobody would know. I can possibly, keep it away without washing it properly. I could do this, I could do that. There are so many different ways they would find out to move away from the real objective. So when people start deviating, they start deviating in such a manner that even the simplest of goals become completely thwarted. So we have been given 16 rounds. We have been given 4 regulative principles. The trick that we will have to understand is, how do we consistently do this for the next 40 years? Most of us are in the age group where we may have 30, 40 years of sadhana left, if we are on the planet. So how do we consistently do this for the next 40 years? How do we not break this? How do we not move away from the simplest of requirements? Okay? We have not been asked to give up families. We have not been asked to give up our jobs. We have not been asked to go to the forest. It's very simple. The requirements are very simple. How do we consistently do this? Right? So do we realize that some children cheat? We belong to that category. That's why we find it very challenging for us to be able to chant the holy names, even though we have received instructions. Now, the first step in understanding what Srila Haridas Thakur was talking about was to understand the supremacy of Krishna. The instruction on the supremacy of Krishna has been given to us consistently. Right? We go through several stages in devotional service. First, we find it very difficult to accept Krishna as supreme, because we have been taught that Krishna is an avatar. Krishna is a Vishnu avatar. We have been taught this. We have been told this since childhood, especially if you come from India. If you come from a Western background, that complication is not there because you accept whatever is available. But if you come from India, you're hearing different things from different people, and this is the first challenge. It is deep-rooted in our psychology of being able to accept Krishna as supreme. Now, why is Krishna supreme? Krishna is supreme because he has 64 qualities. In full, 100%. Shiva, Vishnu, next is Vishnu, has 60 qualities. And you have Shiva, who is not a Jiva, he is not Vishnu, he has 54 qualities. He has around 84% of complete qualities which Krishna has. 90% is Vishnu. Right? And then you have Jiva Tattva, whose maximum is 78%. You can go to 78% of the qualities of Krishna. Maximum. This is Jiva Tattva. What is the meaning of Jiva Tattva? We are in that category. But then who else can be in this category? So a very powerful personality, the creator of the universe, Lord Brahma, is Jiva Tattva. And he has 78% or 50 of the 64 qualities in full. In full. We have only a minuscule part of those 50 qualities of Lord Brahma. We have a very small percentage of those qualities in a very small level. So, very clearly, our full potential is reaching 78%. Do you agree? Does everybody agree? Our full potential is going from where we are to 78%. That is your pure devotee. A pure devotee is your 78% personality, where he is not limited by conditioning of the body. The conditioning of the body is what is self-limiting to us. So now we understand Krishna is 64, Lord Narayana is 60, Shiva is 54, we are 50 in minuscule quantities. Reaching full potential is reaching 50 qualities in full. Our conditioning is such that we are not able to take it up. Now, in Krishna's category, in Lord Narayan's category, when he comes as Lord Nrsimha, what do you remember Lord Nrsimha as? What do you remember when you see Nrsimha avatar? He is Ugra, he is half lion, he is half man, he is an unusual form. Is he beautiful? He is beautiful. Does he have knowledge? Yes, okay. But do you remember him for that? Do you remember him for his beauty? What do you remember? The act of him coming and acting to annihilate Hiranyakashipu. That is what we remember of Lord Nrsimhadev. So this prowess, the strength, the power, that particular opulence of God comes forth, and we remember that feature of God in that particular way. That is it. We do not remember other aspects, even though he is Krishna himself, but in a different way. Because that is the most prominent quality in that particular avatar which is being projected. Now, what do we remember of Sri Parasurama? You remember, and it is not an ordinary thing, and I'll tell you a little bit about Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu was so powerful that the most powerful demigods used to be frightened of him to even raise their hand, even to speak against him. He was so powerful. It is not an ordinary situation where you have the entire material creation and you have one person. Can you imagine this? One person who is so powerful that he is even surpassing the power of the 100% 50 qualities of Lord Brahma, where the Devas, many of them are so powerful that they are afraid of him. So we are looking at an extraordinarily powerful opponent where Lord Nrsimhadev is coming and he's completely decimating him and he's destroying him. We are remembering that. What do we remember of Lord Parshuram? We are remembering Lord Parshuram annihilating 21 generations of Kshatriyas. Not an ordinary thing. A Kshatriya is a king. He has a kingdom. He has an army. He has people around him. He has prowess himself in terms of fighting. 21 generations. And this was in Satya Yuga. They were very powerful. They were not ordinary level Kshatriyas. They were very powerful. They were divine in many ways. Kartavirya Arjuna, who was killed by Lord Parshuram, he was practically an incarnation or empowered incarnation of the Sudarshan Chakra in some ways. So he was extraordinarily powerful. He had Sahasrahasta Arjuna. He had 1,000 arms. He had 500 arms on each side. He could produce 500 bows and 500 arrows. Okay? He ruled for 80,000 years because his lifespan was extraordinary. He was so powerful, Kartavirya Arjuna, that he could influence his entire audience, which was the entire country. He could go into the consciousness of his citizens. Can you imagine how powerful the king is when he can go and penetrate the consciousness of the citizens and control them? This is about control. He could arrest the consciousness and thought of his citizens. He was so powerful, a yogi. So this was not an ordinary person. 21 generations of Kshatriyas, Lord Parshuram annihilated. What do we remember? We remember him as an extraordinarily violent, avatar of the Lord. Extraordinary violence, 21 generations. Blood flowed. He was waiting till the Kshatriya generations became purified. He used to annihilate them when he used to see that. He split the entire material universe into 4 quarters. He gave it to the rishis. The Brahmanas were ruling. The Brahmanas took on the position of the Kshatriyas because Lord Parshuram annihilated the Kshatriyas. Not an ordinary situation, but what do we remember? Do we remember him for anything other than his power? We don't. He's not worshipped, by the way. There are very few temples of Lord Parshuram. There's one temple in Madhya Pradesh. I forget the name. There is one temple for Lord Parshuram. He's not worshipped. Bhrigupati. Because he was Bhrigus. He was in the lineage. Do we remember? We don't. What do we remember Lord Vamanadev for? You remember him as a small child who is extraordinarily intelligent, who is able to come and then he could kind of very clearly manipulate Bali Maharaj and take over and ensure that, whatever was required was done. Now, contrast all of these incarnations with Krishna. Krishna, you remember him for his beauty because he was extraordinarily beautiful. Extraordinarily beautiful. The description in the Shastras is he had, lotus red lips. His color was such that it was the dark blue cloud, Ganashyam, right? If you pinch him, if you pinch his face, he would turn crimson. That place would turn crimson. When he smiles, you could see a little crimson mixed with the blue. He had an extraordinarily beautiful hairstyle, long hair, right? His dress habits were impeccable. He was very stealthy. Mother Yashoda used to take great trouble in dressing him up. And Balaram. They used to go to the forest and they used to take away all the ornaments and throw it away because their mood was very simple. They used to have the cowherd boys dress them up with leaves, with flowers, and with twigs. Because his beauty was so extraordinary that it was unimaginable, unimaginably beautiful. He became curious, Krishna himself. What is the nature of my beauty? It's bewitching the whole world. And he wanted to see that beauty, and he comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu so that he could become Srimati Radharani. He could see his beauty. Because, it's very difficult. Some of us do. It's very difficult to appreciate our own beauty. You cannot stand before the mirror as much as you want. You can keep combing, keep doing all of those. How long can you appreciate? It's very difficult to appreciate. Then you start becoming curious, saying, well, what do others think? So Krishna becomes curious. I am so beautiful. I am bewitching the world. Right? What do they say? Madan Mohan. What is Madan? Oh, that is Radharani. We don't want to talk about Srimati Radharani. She is bewitching even Krishna. But then he gets confused about that too. He says, how is it possible that I am completely bewildered? What is that all about? What are the qualities? But Madan Mohan, he is bewitching Cupid because he's so good looking. And even on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, even by those standards, he was young, but then he had grandchildren. He was extraordinarily good looking on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Bhishma Dev, when he fires arrows at Krishna, there are different rasas. Bhishma Dev had his own rasa. And the chivalry, he wanted to see the chivalry come forth in the Lord. He wanted him to break his vows and he wanted him to come. He wanted to bring out some extraordinary qualities out of Krishna. So he forced Arjun to retreat and he was about to kill Arjun, Bhishma. Bhishma was powerful enough to kill Arjun. And at that time, Krishna decided to take charge. He had given a vow saying, I will not fight, but he broke his vow for his devotees. So he does not even speak the truth. Right? He ran away from the battle when he was fighting Jarasandha and others. Right? Run sure. We celebrate him for running away. Look at him. We celebrate him for running away. We celebrate him for breaking his vows. So that's how unusual Krishna is, that he was extraordinarily beautiful because Bhishma was completely transfixed looking at Krishna, lifting the chariot wheel, running at him. There's a beautiful picture. You remember, some of you must have seen it. It's an extraordinary picture where Krishna is sweating, right? Because he is laboring, he's picking up something, he's rushing towards Bhishma Dev, and then Bhishma is looking at him and he's completely transfixed. How beautiful is this sight? And he's just smiling, saying, how wonderful is this? I've made you break your vow, I've made you take weapons, I've fought with you, I have drawn blood, because he was admiring the blood that was coming because of the wounds that were caused by his arrows. This is Kshatriya mood. He is a Kshatriya. So he has his own little admirations of Krishna, but Krishna was allowing that because he and Bhishma Dev had that extraordinarily intimate relationship. Bhishma. Now Krishna is known for his beauty. We remember that. Do we remember him for his extraordinary strength? Giridhari, right? He lifts up the Govardhan hill and he is constantly holding it in the little finger of his left hand for 7 days. And he was 6 or 7 years old at that time. So we remember him for being extraordinarily strong. Do we remember him for his knowledge? Bhagavad Gita. We remember him for being able to give knowledge. Do we remember him for fame? He is the most famous, Krishna, most famous. Do we remember him for what are we? Riches. Of course. He was so powerful, he was Dwarkadish, he was so powerful that he married 16,000 queens. Prabhus, you all know what it is to marry one. So you should be humble enough to understand his prowess. He married 16,000 and he was able to handle that. Right? He was able to handle 16,000 queens. Not an ordinary situation. So this was extraordinary. And then you had Krishna in the terms of renunciation. Do we remember him for his renunciation? Very good point. He was a charioteer. He didn't have a problem sitting there in the role of a charioteer, which was quite menial. We saw him lifting up, the remnants of the different sages assisting Yudhishthira Maharaj during the Ashwamedha Yajna. He had no problem bringing forth that humility. But renunciation has a different connotation. Read the Bhagavad Gita and you will notice Krishna is not imposing his thoughts on Arjun. He is telling him, Arjun, this is my opinion. This is the Veda's opinion. This is how it should be. This is what that is. Okay, he is not enforcing anything to Arjun, even though he could very well do so. He is saying, you have the free will, take it up, act upon it, and this is being renounced. He is completely renounced. This is God. He is Atmaram. Now, is there any other expansion of Krishna? Now, Balaram is non-different from Krishna. And Balaram has Rasalila. He has his own gopis. He plays the flute. He is as beautiful as Krishna because he is known for his beauty, Balaram. He is extraordinarily powerful. His expansion, all the Vishnu expansions, every expansion from Vrindavan starts with Balaram. So, but Balaram does not take on the role of Krishna even though he does everything. He is somewhat muted in his whole aspect because his mood is being a servant, so he is somewhat in the background. He projects his brother. Right? We don't say Balaram Puri, we say Jagannath Puri, don't we? Right? He's there, Baladev is there, as big as Jagannath, but then we say Jagannath Puri. He's right there. Right? We remember Jagannath, blackish. So this is Krishna. Now this is Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. The entire Srimad Bhagavatam was written by Srila Vyasadeva in a state before writing that he was dissatisfied. When he was completely dissatisfied, and this dissatisfaction, Prabhus, if some of you are looking for job satisfaction, this is a cue for you. Right? He had authored all the Puranas. He had compiled the Vedas into the Vedanta Sutras. He had given out all the Upanishads. He had written the Mahabharata. He had done everything. He was dissatisfied. And he was dissatisfied why? Even though he had done such a stupendous job. Because he had not come in touch with Krishna. Akila Rasamrita Sindhu. If you do not come in touch with a person who is the storehouse of all relationships, And we, being a part of Him, are looking for relationships. That is what we are searching for. Constantly we are looking for relationships. Loving relationship is all we are looking for in life. If you do not come in touch with Akhila Rasamrita Sindhu, you're going to be cheated. Vyasadeva was feeling despondent. He was feeling cheated because he had not come in touch with the source of all relationships. And Sri Narad Muni, how great a personality is Sri Narad Muni? All glories to Sri Narad Muni. He was involved practically in every strategic, crucial situation. Extraordinary personality. Extraordinary personality. Sri Narad Muni gives him mercy. He gives Lord Vasudeva mercy, saying, start the Srimad Bhagavatam. The satisfaction that can come from learning and coming close in touch with glorification of Krishna cannot come elsewhere. Cannot. Even though there are devotees like Hanumanji who could never ever think of anybody other than Lord Ram. He could only say that Lord Ram has come as Krishna. Murari Gupta, Prabhu, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he was an incarnation of Hanuman. And Lord Chaitanya did not push him, but he gave him a vision of him as Shadbhuja. He showed himself as Shadbhuja. He was able to see that Lord Chaitanya was non-different than his Ramachandra. Right? So there are eternal devotees of Lord Shiva. Remember that. There are eternal devotees of Lord Shiva. There are eternal devotees of Lord Ram. There are eternally situated devotees of Lord Nrsingadev. You have Nrsinga Brahmachari in Chaitanya Charitamrita, who basically was chanting a very special Nrsinga mantra. It was very confidential. And Lord Chaitanya comes and reveals the Nrsinga mantra to him, and then that is when he understands that he is a special personality. One day, Sri Nrsinga Brahmachari is offering Bhoga to his deity of Lord Nrsimhadev. And he knows, say Nrsinga, say Jagannath. So he has Jagannath, and he's offering Bhoga to Jagannath and Nrsingadev. And then in his meditation, in his internal transformative meditation, he is closing his eyes and he is chanting the prayers for Bhoga, and he is in deep absorption. When people who are pure, they become deep in absorption, they are transported to the spiritual sky. They get to see Krishna. Right? He is seeing Lord Chaitanya grabbing the Bhoga from Lord Nrsingadev's plate. He is eating up and he is wondering, I understand, say Krishna, say Gaur, say Krishna, say Jagannath. But he is eating from Nrsingadev. Why is he doing that? Because he is a Nrsinga Bhakta. Then the Lord comes and he reveals that I am your Lord, I am Nrsingadev too. Right? So there are some devotees who are attracted to that specific rasa of a specific deity form of the Lord. But we will have to understand from the holy names. And they can chant the holy names. They can chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And they would get the benefits as they would if they were to chant a special Nrsinga mantra. The Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is extraordinarily powerful. Right? If someone has some objective, it would come through them. Be it material or be it spiritual, that's why it's dangerous when you're chanting. You've got to be very careful about what you're desiring because you're going to be getting it. And most of our desires are unhealthy. Why? Because we are self-limiting and we do not have proper goals. So it's very unhealthy. So Lord Chaitanya was able to show that he is non-different from Nrsingadev. But yet, there is Krishna Tattva. It is Krishna who is the origin. He is the avatari. He is not the avatar. He is the avatari. He is the origin of all avatars. Everyone descends from Krishna. He is the origin. And he plays, and especially in Vrindavan. Right? Do you believe that how many of you would work if you have $1 million in the bank? And you receive an interest of, let's say, $100,000 a month, year, 1 year. How many of you will work? Right? Someone is showing their hands. Pradeep, you will? He will work. Hopefully not in city, but he will work. So many of us would not possibly work unless we have to, because we consider that work is a necessity to maintain a living, right? It is necessity to maintain a living, we would probably try and situate, and I'm not talking about working as in being busy. We would become extraordinarily busy in other activities. But we will not work to kind of feed ourselves and to wake up and to pay the rent and so on and so forth or the mortgage. Now, Krishna, being the supreme person in Vrindavan, has no work. He should not be working. Do you agree? He should not be engaging in the process of creation, maintenance, and destruction. That is work. As glamorous as it may seem, Lord Narayan, Lord Vishnu, Lord Sadashiva, as glamorous as it may seem, Lord Brahma is a busy person. He is creating universes. Universes are getting destroyed by Lord Shiva. Right? There's a lot of activity that is going on in administration. God should not be working. Right? Now Krishna, if you look at him, what does he do? The entire pastime, specifically in Vrindavan, is Krishna is enjoying. He is with his devotees. He is doing a great, most super wonderful pastimes. He has very unique characteristics and so on. So he is super special. He is super, super special. If there is a word special, that is Krishna. So Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, Krishna being supreme, and that is the reason why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first established that you will have to understand that Krishna is supreme. Krishna is supreme. Unless we understand who is the goal and we are attaining the goal, it would be difficult for us. Krishna is supreme. Okay? Any questions or comments so far? Yes, Mataji. 16 rounds essentially means keeping Krishna in the center for 2 hours maximum. After 2 hours, there are other activities that come in. So the more and more, who are we today? Let's understand this. Let's go a step back. So the question is, why should 16 rounds not be enough? Let's understand this. Let's understand our position. Our position is such that we are who we are today based on our past experiences. We have had lots of experiences, thousands and thousands of samskaras over several generations, several births, and we have reached a point where our entire existence today, our desires, aggregate desires, are based on our past experiences. It's like a filter, right? If you put water through a certain filter, which has certain qualities, it will take on the qualities of the filter. So our consciousness is a filter, and we are acting through that filter, and as a result of which, it is somewhat limiting in different ways. Okay? Now, having said that, what I'm trying to say is that it is very difficult for us to keep Krishna in the center, because for millions of years, for millions of births, we have worked very hard to not keeping him in the center. So we have a lot of negative patterns in us where we constantly go back to our old patterns, right? I took a chance when I said when we were younger, we used to go to the cinema and we used to stand in the line and we used to get the cinema tickets and so on. Some of you probably remember that. Now that's a samskara which I probably activated, right? I activated that. And you might want to figure out, maybe why not go check it out? It was fun 20 years back, 15 years back, 10 years back. Why not go check it out? Okay, this is an activity. Because that particular experience is still a part of our psyche. It's a part of our consciousness. When you hear things or when you come in touch with material nature, it activates that and you start going towards that. So in a similar fashion, if you have pretended not to be Krishna conscious for 1.5 million years, it is so difficult for you to unpretend and become right and constantly keep Krishna in the center, because the previous samskara is going to constantly force you and bring you back to that realm. So there's a lot of work that is required as a sadhaka for us to be able to clear out the previous samskaras and be able to bring Krishna right in the center so that we could make progress. So why 16 rounds is not enough? Surely it could be more than enough. Prabhupada used to say, if you are pure, chanting once, not 16 rounds, is enough. Chanting once is enough because the potency of the holy names is such that even chanting once is enough. But we do not have that purity. Even chanting 16 rounds is not enough because we don't have that purity. That's why. We need work. A lot of time, a lot of work. We have to constantly strategize on how we should not get distracted and how we can keep Krishna in the center. It's very important. Does it answer your question? Yes, Mother. Where is he working? Well, he is not working in Vrindavan. Look at the pastimes of Vrindavan. Do you see that as work? Do you see that as work or no? Getting up early in the morning, it appears to be work. It's all fun. He is having a lot of fun throughout the day. Cowherd boys, going there, having adventures, the whole day is planned around having fun. Different kinds of eating is not a chore. Eating is not for them to maintain the body. Eating is done for pleasure. Grazing the cows is done for pleasure because they take care of the cows. All of this is being done for pleasure. There's no work potency involved. So you don't see him doing what Lord Kshirodakashayi Vishnu does or Karanodakashayi Vishnu does, where Lord Vishnu Narayan is lying on the causal ocean and then he's breathing in, universes are going in, breathing out, universes are coming out, and so on and so forth. You are not doing what Kshirodakashayi Vishnu does, where the Devas, whenever they have a crisis, they go to the Kshira ocean, they go and they sing the Purusha Shukta, they ask for help. So he doesn't do all those things. He is completely engaged in a supra-mundane, transcendental pastimes, having fun. So that's the specialty of Krishna. He has the ability to expand. He has the ability. See, my father, he was somewhat in a well-positioned role in the government. And what he used to do was, after taking charge of any responsibility, he used to organize. And after that, he used to work for 2 hours a day, while others used to carry files home and work hard and so on and so forth. He used to work for 2 hours a day because he knew how to manage. And after 2 hours, he used to be free in the day, unless it was required. So the point which I'm saying is, even we should become efficient. Why should we struggle if our existence can be more simplified? No, you're getting paid for 4 hours a day. You're getting paid for the job. And hopefully, if it's a decent corporation, they're not paying you by the hour, right? For most part, they're paying you for the output. So if the output is going to be accomplished in 2 hours as opposed to 8, who is complaining? Okay, now if there are integrity issues, where we do work for 4 hours, where the work is supposed to be completed in 4 hours, but we end up doing it for 4 hours, but then bill for 8 hours, that is not a good practice, right? That's your efficiency. I mean, if they are going to be telling you, and see, if the corporation believes that you are supposed to work for 8 hours and you are supposed to deliver, and you are able to accomplish it in 4 hours, that is your efficiency. They are compensating you for that efficiency, which is perfectly all right, right? So I don't think that's much of an issue. But what I'm trying to say is that we want to be able to simplify. We want to be able to take out the samskaras because we have challenges. We have challenges in being able to go expose ourselves to a work environment. We bring those challenges home. It affects our spiritual life. It affects our domestic life. It affects everything. So we have to be careful about it. So we want to simplify. We want to be able to simplify as much as we can, unless we have the capacity. If we have the capacity to take on huge responsibilities, right? I used to know someone, honestly, in my early days of devotional service. there was a Prabhu in the Persian Gulf. He was a senior authority in a bank, and he was managing the entire. I think he was a CIO of the bank, so he was quite senior. And he used to be a busy personality in terms of his role because he was a CIO, meetings and so on and so forth. But he he and his wife, he basically spearheaded the entire Krishna consciousness in the country. And because of them, a lot of people joined and so on and so forth. He used to invite, I used to sleep in his house because I had difficulty waking up for Mangalarti. Every day there used to be Mangalarti in his house. Opening up the door every day in the morning, right? Having devotees come in and then ensuring, oh, they're brahmacharis, they're not able to wake up. Okay, come and sleep here so that we can wake you up. Okay? These are all big privacy concerns. Vijay Venugopal Prabhu and Prema Padmini Mataji. They were a wonderful couple. They served Srila Prabhupada wonderfully. I think now they're in Bangalore. They were there, and I used to notice that he was quite successful. He was successful because he was initially in an apartment, and then they gave him a somewhat bigger house. He could accommodate more devotees. Then he increased the congregation. The bank gave him an even bigger house. So it was almost as if Krishna was providing resources so that he could kind of manage, right? Correspondingly, nice devotee. There are many of us who connected during that time. I'm talking about the early 90s, 1990 time period. So he was a wonderful personality. So I'm just giving you an example where someone could be very busy, and then they could be extraordinarily useful. Take Yudhishthir Maharaj. Take Parikshit Maharaj. These were kings. They were administrating an entire planet. But they were extraordinarily Krishna conscious while doing their duties and ensuring that they were able to serve the Lord and being able to engage in their bhajan as well. Ambarish Maharaj. The beauty is there. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, great example. 100 years back. 13 children. Right? Big deal. 13 children and Chief Judicial Magistrate, Deputy Magistrate. He was busy. He was known to dispose of cases in a fraction of the time compared to others. He was the chief administrator of the Jagannath Puri temple. Big, you know what it is, some of you Prabhus. What it is to be a temple president, VP, whatever it is, organizing. It's as good as being in a job because you're very busy. Plus, he wrote 100 books, poems. This book is his mercy, Harinam Cintamani. So it's not that we want to be self-limiting. That's the reason why I'm kind of trying to get into it, where we want to go beyond. We want to take these limitations out because we have preconceived notions of what is possible, what is not possible. We have preconceived notions of what we should be doing, what we should not be doing, what is good and what is bad. We want to limit all of these, get this out so that we could act at the highest level for most part, so that we could gain from it. It's very self-limiting otherwise. It's difficult. So we'll stop here. We'll take a break. It's now 5:25. We will meet at 5:40, right? So 15 minutes. So you can walk around, but 15 minutes means I want you to come back and settle down in 15 minutes. Then we will have another session until 7, and then we'll break for prasadam. Right? I'm just setting the stage. I'm kind of taking it slow. I'm not giving a lot of information specifically from the book. I want to kind of set the stage so that we know what we're going to be doing. In subsequent sessions, we will cover the focused topics, and it would be like today we're going to be doing 3 chapters. We'll complete the book. That's what we're going to be doing. Okay, I'll try and provide some. A thought leads to an idea. An idea leads to actions. Actions become habits. Habits become character. And character is culture. Right? So our self-limitations are on the mental level. So our self-limitations are on the mental level first of all, we distinguish spiritual and material life. This is a limitation in itself, where we believe that there are material activities and there are spiritual activities. We believe that there is a particular day where I got to split my material and spiritual. It's a self-limiting prophecy because that itself puts you where you're going to be doing sadhana for 2 hours means you're in touch with Krishna for 2 hours, and beyond that you're done. You walk out and you yourself you do what you need to do. So our own conception of who we are, how we plan our day, the different activities, these are very self-limiting and which put real boundaries around us. And these boundaries not only affect us spiritually, they affect surely other aspects of our life. They are, it's interesting to note that it affects every aspect of life because the core is not concrete. The foundation is weak. Imagine building a house where the foundation is weak. How far can you get by such activity? So these are self-limiting behavior. What can I do? What can I not do? What should I strategize? What should I keep in mind? Okay, then this is just not about freeing ourselves up and doing things. This is also about understanding what is important and what is going to be driving us. How should we focus on it? Right. See, remember, this is the long haul. This is a long haul. And I'm using the word carefully. I'm using the word carefully by saying there's a long haul. Is you have a 30-year program here. Being successful and executing for 30 years consistently is going to take strategy, is going to take planning, is going to take a lot of introspection, is going to take you for you to be able to bring different aspects into consideration. Because if you're not going to do that, there is going to be a break in those 30 years. Devotees experience. You have sannyasis at the age of 50 wanting to get married. Right? They have been sannyasis for 25 years. But at the age of 50, they want to get married. Can you imagine how difficult it is? Because you are on a long haul. You're talking 30 years, 40 years of being able to do something. If you don't figure out the varna, if you don't figure out the ashram, if you don't prioritize, if you do not understand where the limitations are and how we can free ourselves, we're going to be within boundaries. And those boundaries could be highly constricted. Those boundaries could also mean that we are not allowing Krishna to come in. Krishna wants to help. His help comes in many ways. And we are telling Krishna, you stay out. We have fears. Fears of the future. Fears of the present. We have things dogging us from the past, which we are holding on to for dear life, which are preventing us from acting properly in the present. When Bill Clinton was undergoing the crisis back in 1997, was it 97, 98? And he was going to be impeached as a president because he had illicit connections with this girl, Monica Lewinsky. There were a lot of press meets. There was a lot of, what is your opinion kind of situation on TV. And a lot of people were of the opinion that I don't care, as long as he's a good president, I'm okay with it. What if he has a problem? FDR. Every president has a problem in the closet in the White House. Honest to God, it's not the first time. You had John F. Kennedy. You had FDR. Almost, there were like a line of presidents who violated the principles while being in power, and it is the same situation. So there were a lot of people who were making statements saying, oh, Bill is a great president. Why bother? Because, he is violating some principle. He has, integrity. Why bother? Because, he is a president and he's going to be good. He's going to be okay. But then, it is the same person. A same person means same consciousness. He cannot be performing at the highest level in his government role while he cannot even maintain integrity with his wife. How can unknown people trust someone while known people cannot trust the person? There's no integrity, right? Becomes a situation. How do you trust this man to keep his fingers away from the nuclear button or whatever they call it, which the president has authority over, while his own wife cannot trust him? This is integrity, and this integrity it starts at home, just as they say that charity starts at home, so on and so forth. So we have many conceptions where we say that we can do certain things, we cannot do certain things, we are okay with this, we are not okay with that. We've split our day into two halves. One is a material, one is a spiritual, and then we have my material friends and we have our spiritual friends. we have an existence which is away from Krishna. The fact is, we don't have such a thing. Those walls don't exist, but we have built those walls, and it becomes very self-limiting because we don't allow Krishna to help us. Krishna, this is the office. Stay out of my life. You stay out of my life, Krishna. This is the office. You stay out of my life here. You stay out of my life there. It need not manifest itself in a certain kind of behavior, but the fact is that we are who we are wherever we are. Right? It is self-limiting. It is very self-limiting. So we are going to be talking about certain aspects. We're trying to see if we can go home and practice it, so that when we come back and meet again, then we would be able to share our experiences, being able to apply it. So we are going to be talking about applying the principles given by Srila Haridas Thakur, which eventually would allow us to follow the Yuga Dharma, which is the reason why we are existing. We have no other reason to exist. That's our idea. Okay? That's what we're going to be doing. Okay, let's take this break. We'll start at 5:45 again. And then we'll have an hour and 15 minutes. And we'll figure out how to meet again.